Hello, Planeswalkers. Welcome back to another episode of the Lotus Archives. As always, I am Kava.
And I am Jack. How's it going?
And today, we are going to be talking about the white cards. And we're going to be going into a little bit of what white is known for in the Magic world, as well as some ideas you can use to build a mono white deck. Jack, why don't you go ahead and start us off here with our first talk point?
Yeah, so mono white, right? So that is like you're saying, color theories, kind of like that, and doing our deep dive into the pros and cons of white, really. So a lot of time when you look at the color white, you see them pretty much depicting it as, the peacekeepers of the planes that they're found in, right? You see there are a lot of knights, a lot of clerics, a lot of angels, kind of like the goody two-shoe good doers, right?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. So their whole thing kind of just revolves around, yeah, keeping the order and justice and all that crap. Which, as somebody who usually plays mono black, I usually try to avoid people like that. But that's just me.
So
they don't like graveyard necromancers like myself.
yeah, usually they don't. So with white, what would you say is white's most common strength that they have when you're building a white deck?
Yeah, so big pros of white. The biggest one I would probably have to go with just right off the bat is their board wipes. Like, white has some of the strongest, best board wipes ever be printed, with the newest one, straight out of these Modern Horizons 3 commanders, being Farewell.
Oh god, yeah.
Like, it's one of the most insane things I think I've ever seen. 4 and 2 white, sorcery, choose one or more, exile all artifacts, all creatures, enchantments, and graveyards. That last one really hurts my soul, again, as the Dredge Necromancy player I am.
Yeah.
But that's kind of White's biggest thing, is that they don't just destroy your stuff. No, they exile it. White is infamous for just completely wiping the board of everything permanently. They do, like, complete permanent wipeout.
So...
Or whiteout. It's like whiteout.
It's just a giant snowstorm.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, one of the...
It's insane.
Yeah. One of the things that white is also very good at is they're not anywhere close to as good as this in green, but white also has some land draw abilities.
Yep.
You got cards like Land Tax. You got cards, an older card like Tithe. Weathered Wayfarer is another good one that you can easily go grab a land. And then Gift of the Estates as well. You can get essentially 3 lands for the cost of 2 mana with Gift of the Estates. It's kind of insane.
Yeah, White's definitely kind of helped out with their being able to get their planes out and their ramp out early, since that's been kind of one of their biggest struggles. Has always been, unless you're running a bunch of artifacts, ramp is kind of a tough bit.
Yeah. But, so, with the white, what are some of the downfalls of white?
So, yeah, White's kind of biggest issues and their kind of biggest struggles, in my opinion, are probably, first and foremost, their lack of card draw.
Yeah.
Right? Like, just like the innate inherent card draw. Like, if you compare it to blue, which has cards that just say, draw card, do whatever for yourself, draw cards. White has things that are they've got this one secret rendezvous, which lets you and an opponent both draw 3 cards, which is great. But that's why would I want my opponent to draw card? Like why would I help out my opponent when I could just draw cards myself with a different color?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
like it's a cool niche thing you can do in the political realm of fun casual EDH. But if you're really just kind of building a deck that you want to use yourself and not help your opponent out, White kind of just struggles with that. I mean, you got something like Esper Sentinel, which is cool. It's like Rhystic Study on a creature. So 1 drop artifact creature. I think it's whenever somebody casts a non-creature spell, they pay X, where X is equal to the creature's power, and if they don't, then you have to draw a card. So it's
Yep.
cool, but it doesn't go off of just any spell, and it's tied to a creature, which of course dies to any kind of removal. Doubly so as an artifact creature, so it dies to artifact removal, which that's a dime a dozen. So like, White's never really gotten true good card draw without having some kind of other thing tied to it. Right? They got to have some kind of niche or caveat to that.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing white does have on all the other colors, though, is they have some of the best removal in the entire game. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, without a doubt.
you got staples like Swords to Plowshares and Path to
Yep,
Exile. That if you're
yep.
running white, you almost need both those cards in
Oh
that
yeah,
deck.
it doesn't matter if it's mono white or any other color combination. If you have white in the deck, you're running both of those. Like there's no reason why you shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, with white, yes, they have a ton of removal. They have they actually have a fairly decent way to get cards back from your graveyard as well.
Yeah,
Um,
their recursion and reanimation is actually that's a pretty strong package of theirs. I will say, especially in like the artifact and enchantment realm.
oh yeah, I mean some of the stuff. I mean with white, it's it's tough. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's ways. White is very tough to win on its own
yeah.
unless you're going like a full on aggro route and you're just trying to build up a bunch, go wide, and swing with as many creatures as possible. Um, I mean,
Right, exactly.
like I'm looking right now, and there's only really one or two even combos you can do in white, exclusively white, that
Yeah,
are going to take someone out of the game.
right. I mean, otherwise you're just running artifacts to do it.
Yeah. So,
I think it should be noted though, little caveat to this, like it may be plain to see by just by how we're talking about it, but we aren't white players. Like we don't play mono white, do we?
no, not at all.
Like I don't. Yeah, Nick and I, we usually never play mono white. I think like in my collection right now, I have 0 mono white decks. I don't. Yeah, it's not a color I typically play. So
Yeah, I mean,
if you ever drop length on things, that's why. So,
I
so we
mean,
just don't play this color.
I mean, for me, the most white I'll play is in my Esper decks,
Exactly.
and that's
Which yeah.
just
So
for some stacks effects and board wipes and whatnot.
exactly. Which we that is another good pro to if you want to go a mono white route. One of their biggest key themes that they excel in is in fact the stacks taxing effects where they have a lot of cards like Thalia Guardian of Thraben, who's a simple 2 drop that's just says, okay, well, non-creature spells cost 1 more. And like that's kind of the definitive intro to like what used to be, I think it's still called Death and Taxes,
Yeah, I think
and
so.
like the theme there, where basically it's here's what's gonna happen. Either, I mean, you're gonna die, and you're gonna be paying these taxes on these cards. That's just how this game is gonna go now,
So,
which is brutal.
with neither of us really playing much mono white, if you had to go and build a mono white commander right now
Hmm.
that was somewhat competitive, what would you
Okay.
try and build?
So, okay. I was looking at a few different commanders for that. I would actually go with this one really cool one I found the other day, being or actually, okay, if I'm actually gonna go try to competitive, it's gonna be Balin Wandering Knight.
Yep.
Would actually be so yeah. If I wanted to go like kind of pseudo competitive, like maybe not CEDH, of course. Not that I mean, you can definitely try to go CEDH with a mono white deck. It is possible. You play a lot of like you have to do a lot of fast artifact mana, of course, like Jeweled Lotus, Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, obnoxiously expensive crap like that.
Oh yeah.
But if I want to do a deck like this where it was, it was not exactly casual, but kind of in the top tier of like it's consistent, it's fast. I can kind of get a win out maybe by turn 6 or turn 7, usually pretty consistently. Balin Wandering Knight is my pick. He is a 2 and 2 white cat knight. He has first strike, and he's also got he'll have double strike as long as 2 or more equipment are attached to him. And then he has the really awesome and amazing ability of 1 and a white, attach all equipment you control to Balin. And
Yeah.
that can be done at instant speed, ladies and gentlemen. That is a instant speed, pay 2 white, slap everything onto him.
Yeah, that could definitely be very, very interesting.
Right? Like with the amount of insane equipments that exist out there that we've gotten, it it could be absolutely insane. White truly excels in an equipment focused deck, I think, has been usually what I play to have the most fun with. That's where you can see more of their card draw, like with Sram, the Artificer,
Hmm.
who draws you a card whenever you play an aura equipment or vehicle. So like he's got that cool bit, but mostly we care about the equipment part. So he's got some card draw there. You can play things like Skull Clamp and tokens, do stuff like that. So like it exists. You just got to really work around it.
I mean, I guess what, based off of what we're talking about here, it sounds to me like you and I are very similar in our mindset of what we would build if we were to run a mono white commander. And
Yep.
that's gonna go down to equipment style decks. And
Yeah.
like for me, right off the top of my head, if I was to build something that would be somewhat competitive, I would go with a card like Kemba Regent, 1 and 2
Hmm.
white for a 2/4 cat cleric. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 2/2 white cat creature token for each equipment attached to Kemba. Like that
Yep.
could end up getting disgusting. Each
Oh
upkeep,
yeah.
you create frickin' 5/2/2s.
Yeah.
If you
I'd
have
say
five
on average
things.
you could do like yeah, like if you're not making 4 or 5 a turn there, your deck is operating pretty poorly, I think.
Yeah.
Like on average, I'd say between 4 and 5 would be where you'd want to be.
I mean, with that style deck, you throw in a card like Anointed Procession. Now you
Yeah.
double that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you're creating 5, now create 10.
Yeah,
But
that gets out of hand real quick, which is that other part of white there is that their token generation is absurd.
yeah, I mean, then get what is the new Elish Norn card? Or no, not Elish Norn.
Mondrake.
Mondrake that doubles
The
it as well.
yep, that one I'm actually playing in this Urza Chief Artificer deck I'm brewing up. It's gonna go in there and it's gonna be just insane token generation and artifact swarming the board.
Yeah. I mean, that style deck can end up going really wide really quick.
Yeah.
Um, you also got, I mean, when I'm looking at a card like Kemba, great
Yep.
card for that style deck. I mean, obviously, you got cards like Giada, Font of Hope, who has been proven to be a staple mono white card in CEDH, as well as
Yeah.
cards like Light Paws, Emperor's Voice. And we've said it before, we're not looking to have you guys build CEDH decks. That's not what
Right. We
we're
don't do
looking
that
to
here.
talk about. But we're looking for those decks that are fun to play and fun to play against.
Yep.
And I'm looking at cards. I saw there's a new card from Modern Horizons 3. It's called, I believe I'm pronouncing it right, Phelia Exuberant Shepherd. It's a 1 white for a 2/2 legendary creature dog. It has flash, and whenever Phelia Exuberant Shepherd attacks, exile up to one other target non land permanent at the beginning of the next end step. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it entered under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Phelia. Like, that could be a nifty little interesting style deck for mono
Yeah.
white. I mean, you got cards like Flicker Wisp, um,
Yep.
Spirited Companion for
Felidar
card
Guardian.
draw. Yeah, Feldar Guardian.
Yep.
Um, it.
That new Elishnorn is actually the one that what is it? I think Mother of Machines
Yes.
is the one that doubles ETB triggers, same as Panharmonicon.
Yep.
So like you might want to
Panharmonicon
stick
and
that
Elishnorn, Mother
Conjurer's Closet.
Machine. Oh yeah. Um,
That's the one that if it exiles them on the end step to bring them back again. So like, yeah, you could do a really cool, busted, fun ETB like enter the battlefield effects matter
yeah, I mean,
commander deck in mono
throwing
white. That's cool.
throwing cards like the Sad Robot. I mean,
Yep, Solemn
for card draw or land advantage.
and
But
card draw.
yeah, but there is a White has a ton of ETB style cards, and I mean, if I was going to be building this deck, I would
Yep.
100% build it with a dog sub theme
Yeah, because why not?
with yeah dogs and equipments, and flash the
Yep.
hell out of stuff with ETBs. I mean, it's one of those things where I mean, even for me, frickin' just talking about mono white, it's tough for me because I don't really
Yeah.
play it, and I'm so used to having being able to have blue or black or green in there.
Right.
Um,
But that's actually a really good that commander there is actually a really good option because usually when I've usually tried to build ETB matters decks, I usually end up having green and blue in there to make it a Bant deck.
yeah,
But having it with that one, it would be good, I think, for somebody trying to start out and not wanting to build the mana base of a three-color deck, but still wanting to do that strategy. Right?
yeah,
Because, like, I remember when I first started playing Magic and I saw three-color stuff, I'm like, wait, what's that mana base look like?
yeah,
What
right,
do I? How do I make three colors work? So I think starting out, like if you wanted to play an ETB deck, building it around that commander actually is a really good way to go to kind of just understand that strategy better. And then if you want to down the line, look at these other cards that help that strategy in those colors, and work towards building a three-color mana base. You could definitely do that down the road if you wanted to.
yeah. So on a side note here, we were talking about using multicolors for the mono white or the mono color cards. Obviously, adding in other colors to these cards is going to give you an advantage. It's going to allow you to do stuff that you normally can't do with that solo color. But
Yep.
we are talking about the mono white color right now.
Yes.
So, we're not going to go too much into, oh, we're going to start talking about Esper and all you can do on Esper. No. um, because that is a whole nother topic for another day. But,
Yeah, the three color stuff is that. Oh god, it's the shards of Alara.
oh, God.
Ugh.
So, with the mono white, you're generally going to the general strategies that you could offer depending on who your commander is and the style build. I mean, you could easily do stacks. Um, you can
Move for your
do
friends.
yeah, and you can do token generation. Um,
A lot of fun.
oh yeah, obviously equipment is huge.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Um, White, for lack of better terms, White has a lot of stack style. Your opponents can't do anything. Style better decks. Um, then you got a card like Izamaru, Hound of Kanda. I know Jack and I were talking about this card earlier. That
Yes, the good.
that potentially is one of the better 1v1 card commanders for a monocolored deck. I mean, how would
He's
you build him up, Jack? I know you've
Isamaru.
had
Well,
him.
I used to play an Isamaru Hound of Konda deck, and the greatest thing about Isamaru, he's a one drop, one white, 2/2, and that's it. He has no other abilities. He is a goodest boy. He's the best dog ever. He has no effects whatsoever. So I built him. Actually, I built him shortly after I started playing Dark Souls and saw a Sif with a big sword. I saw a dog with a big sword. So I thought in my brain, okay, how can I just put as many equipment onto this dog and then imagine what that looks like? Because like I don't know how often people actually think about putting all these crazy equipment onto their commander and then trying to picture what it actually looks like in their head. So like I'm picturing this dog, he's got a sword of feast and famine, he's got a basilisk collar, which makes sense. He's got some kind of dark steel plate on him, and he's got these lightning greaves, and then he's got some other kind of boots. And I'm like, this dog has so much crap on him, it's insane.
Yeah,
So
I
that was basically, yeah, I built him purely for fun and just to see how much crazy shit I could put onto a basic 2/2 dog. We didn't have really dogs back in that time either. Like when I built him, there was really no dog tribal. There was maybe a few hounds
well,
that existed, but they weren't called dogs yet. It was really
yeah,
just Isamaru.
yeah. Now they've retconned all hounds to be dogs, I believe,
Yes. Yep. So now you
which
can do a full dog tribal.
which definitely helps.
Yep.
Um, let's see, what's our next topic or point of topic
What's
here?
kind of crazy here? I decided like so the equipment theme. Right? I know we are talking about that
Yeah.
as one of the greater things for White. If you were to go into, and we mentioned EDH Rec too as one of the best sites to use for just looking stuff up. On under their equipment theme, Mono White is the highest rated, or has the most decks built for equipment out of any other color combination,
Oh
with
yeah.
the exception of only one exception being Boros and Mardu, which
Yeah.
I think is really interesting. Boros and Mardu have the other ones. Boros makes sense because you add red and white into that mix, and you've got a whole slew of hurt there.
I mean, I'm looking at these right now, and mono white. There's over 9,000
Yeah.
equipment decks, and the only ones higher are Boros, Mardu, which, like you said, that surprises me too.
I mean, Mardu kind of makes sense. You got a lot of interesting stuff that those colors add to the
Yeah.
mix
I
there.
mean, you got cards like the Sire Gwen, Hero of Asheville, which is a very,
Yeah.
very solid deck. And, I mean, she
I know that's one
herself
you built,
has. Oh,
but
yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember I freaking built her? And I literally just threw a bunch of random ass equipment in there, and I ended up
yep.
freaking wiping the board. I'm like, yeah, this is not right. She could be very, very good. But that's a talk for another day. But she has over
Right.
7,000 decks on EDH Rec right now under the equipment tag.
Yeah, I think she pretty much accounts for like the whole Mardu because like these numbers are in total.
Yeah.
So like you look at the Boros one at nearly 30,000. That's not saying there's one commander that's got 30,000 decks. It's like okay, in total between all the Boros commanders that you can play this, they rank up to about that amount.
Oh, exactly. And looking at the first mono white commander you see is Milan Wandering Knight.
That's what I'm
And
saying, man. He's good.
and then
He's good.
then it goes to Shram Senior Edificer and Kembaka Regent or Reagent,
Yep.
however you want to pronounce it. And then it kind of significantly drops down a little bit. But it artifacts I feel like are definitely the way to go with mono white if you don't want to make enemies.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely would need to have a significant artifact package in terms of just mana rocks alone to really kind of help you keep the pace with other decks out there. Just given White's kind of, not lackluster ramp, I should say. Like they got, like I was saying, land tax and stuff like that that specifically goes and grabs planes,
Yeah.
right? Like those aren't cards you would put into other types of decks with white in it. That's just a mono white thing. Is that they have those cards that are specifically for, yeah, go grab X amount of planes or whatever from your deck, and then you're good to go. So I definitely have seen mono white players and the way they built their deck up that they can keep a steady pace and have lands flowing. I haven't really run into them getting screwed on lands
No.
very often.
Usually they're up there with the mono green in terms of making sure they have enough mana.
Yeah, they can be.
But
So, I think with that we could switch over to what would white bring? What does white bring to the table
oh,
in these multicolored decks we're talking about?
oh Christ. So well, the snowstorm effect is huge. um,
Yeah, the big board wipe for sure. Yeah.
but white brings a lot of protection,
Yep.
and you're gonna see a lot of creatures with flying in white. Angels are a very, very, very powerful tribal that you can play as. Um, you're gonna see also a lot of token generation, and that's more for the offensive side. The defensive side, you see white having a good amount of keywords in their cards. So obviously cards like uh, keywords like flying, vigilance, double strike are two of the big ones that you see a lot on a lot of white creatures.
Yep. Even indestructible too.
Yeah,
Quite a
indestructible
bit.
as well.
Yep.
And I mean, then you got ones like first strike and flash, but you see a lot of keywords on mono white cards. And
Yeah. Can bring a good like kind of keyword soup
yeah,
style thing to different decks.
yeah, and then with if you wanted to go like a keyword route, a great commander in a mono white would be Adric Lunarch Marshall. He's three and a white for a 3/3 human soldier. At the beginning of each combat, creatures you control gain first strike until end of turn. If a creature you control has first strike, the same is true for flying, death touch, double strike, haste, hexproof, indestructible, lifelink, menace, reach, skulk, trample, and vigilance. So pretty much every keyword that Magic has.
So yeah. So with all those, I'm actually wondering, can you get all those keywords in mono white?
I don't know about Death Touch. Um,
I mean, you can if like through artifact usage, but like without the support of artifacts, I'm wondering if you could be able to get all of those in mono white, or if he'd actually be a good addition into like like an Abzan deck
Yeah.
that
So
can get those more reliably without having to rely on equipments or other things like that.
the only ones that I know for sure that you'll be able to get in white or mono white is Vigilance, um, Lifelink, Indestructible, Haste, and Double Strike. Skulk, I in Menace, that's more of a black and a red keyword, I believe. And then Trample is usually a green keyword.
Trample you see a lot of in green, yeah. Which don't worry, folks, we'll get to that one eventually.
Oh yeah, that's where we'll be able to talk a lot more, and you're gonna see us a lot more talking confidently. Um,
Yeah, white's kind of just like it's. It really is just that one card that we kind of just look at and we're like, well, I mean, you get to do all these cool things, and I know we are like kind of hyping it up too. Is like it has a lot going for it, but then it's just like there's so many other things that you could do in the other colors that like you want white to be a part of that, but then losing all those other things in mono white, I feel like it's very limited.
yeah,
You know, like we're talking about how like white really does equipment's very good, it does stacks really good, it does tokens, and it's like okay, that's about it.
it.
And like you're really kind of shoehorned into just doing these things if you want like a really strong, consistent strategy. Then it's like okay, here's your options, pick from A, B, or C. You know?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, if you're going to build, if you want to build like a very high power mono white deck, you really only have three options, and that's
Yeah,
either go Angels,
yeah. Angel Tribal is ridiculously
yeah,
strong.
go Auras,
Yep,
Auras enchantment style stuff, or go
yep,
tokens. Those are
yeah.
really in equipments, but
Then like yeah,
those
like
are
auras and equipments I think kind of go hand in hand because you see a
yeah,
lot of uh what's I don't know for like melding together, I guess. Like they meld together a lot in cards. Like usually if a white card says something about equipment, 9 times out of 10 it's gonna have aura attached to that as well.
yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, after those three like themes, there's not much that you're gonna be doing with
Yeah.
mono white. And
The only other one I could think of that's really kind of far out there that I played against a few times back in the day was 8.5 tails,
okay, yeah,
who did a lot of color manipulation. His ability is basically like pay two and something,
yeah, it's
you turn a card white, and then you give something protection from white.
yeah, yeah, it's his.
So
He's a 2 drop for a 2/2 fox cleric,
yep,
and a color or one and a white target permanent you control gains protection from white until end of turn, and then a 1 mana target spell or permanent becomes white until end of turn.
yeah, it's kind of a gross thing for like for essentially two and a colorless, or two and a white. Give this thing protection from whatever you want.
Yeah,
Like it's that can be really dumb.
it white is so freaking tough. I mean, yes, like we were saying, there's a lot of commanders that could be a solid commander for
Yep,
mono
but
white.
they're linear. Is the
Yes.
only other thing that they're just kind of stuck in. It's like you're gonna do this, and then that's all you're gonna do.
Yeah. Hope that your opponent doesn't have protection from white.
Essentially, yeah. But then you just board wipe anyway. You just go farewell, bye bye, exile everything.
Yeah.
Nobody has any fun anymore. Yeah, they. At the end of the day, White's just gonna be like, "Oh, nobody else is having fun. Okay, I'm just gonna reset the game. Let's start over."
Yeah. And with that being said, be careful with board wipes. If
Yeah,
you
I mean,
start
I personally say run a few extras these days, just because I don't know about you, but I feel like targeted removal is kind of running by the wayside.
Oh, without a doubt. Be-
Like I just feel like ward is becoming a big thing. Creatures are having more protection put on them,
oh,
and I know
yeah.
we mentioned that before. Like we mentioned almost every time now. I keep saying it over and over, like a stupid broken record. But yeah, board wipes are just becoming more relevant.
Yeah, especially with award being more and more common on these newer
Yeah,
cards that are printed. Because back in the day, white used to be a fairly powerful monocolor deck that you could build. And even with these other monocolors, white, I hate to say it, is probably the weakest out of all of them in terms of
yeah,
can you do this and can you win? Because, like we were saying,
right.
white has the stack style effects, but they don't
It
have many ways to win on their own other than creature damage.
right, like building up one thing really huge, like the Voltron style, build up like Balin with a bunch of equipment, or use like you know one of the other crazy commanders and just make a like Kemba or something, and make a bunch of tokens and go wide. That's those are really your best ways to close out the game. But I guess like in the stack side, you got stuff like Approach of the Second Sun,
Yep.
which you can do, which is a crazy sorcery that uh, you play it, then it goes back to the bottom seven, like seven deep, and the second time you play it, it just lets you win the game. So you can do that with a stacks control strategy and just kind of try to keep yourself alive long enough to get to that point, which like White is very good at life gain. Like
Yes,
I
they are.
remember like White's biggest thing used to be life gain. Like that was their that's what everybody used to talk about when I was growing up learning how to play Magic was like White does life gain and that was kind of it. Actually,
Yeah.
when I really try to think back to it, it's just like a lot of old color theory type episodes and stuff I used to watch on YouTube were like White's all about life gaining, it's all about equipments and some enchantments, and that's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't make it terrible. It makes it very niche. It makes it very kind of one note. And like I mean, if you like the white bread, then hey, there you go. Here's your if you want to be that big old paladin-y knight for justice and eat the same toast every morning, then hey, there you go.
Oh. Yeah, white is very. Oh.
Yeah.
So, I have this thing pulled up that Mark Rosewater wrote, and he did one for all of the monocolors. And this was published all the way back in 2003.
Whoa. Whoa,
Yeah.
my heart. Oh
Yeah.
man.
So, very freaking old. And some of you guys probably weren't even born yet. But,
Oh man. Over 20 years, 21 years ago.
yeah.
Uh,
So, he says, what does the color care about? What is its end goal? And this is directly quoted from this article. Each color's philosophy is anchored in what it wants. Each color strives to make the world in the image it believes it should be. That
yep.
said, what does white value most? Harmony. White wants a world where everyone gets along. White enjoys community. White wants what is best for the whole. White looks out for everyone. White would be happiest in a utopian society where everyone shares and cooperates with one another. White's ultimate goal is peace. And he follows that up by saying, I'd like to make a quick aside about white and the concept of good. Good and evil are labels used by people to signify whether something promotes their values or attacks their values. Something that promotes the values you believe in is good, something that attacks them is evil. Each color in magic believes strongly in the thing it seeks. Therefore, it sees itself as good and the enemies that oppose it as evil. Um,
Yeah, that's a really great thing to for that to have because like you look at a card like Elishnorn, who's a white legendary, and that's exactly what she wants, right? A lot of the whole other realms and other people will say, oh, she's evil, but she wants exactly what the color identity was. What he was just talking about. They want harmony, they want peace, they want unity, they want that community of. I mean, yeah, they want everybody to be Phyrexian, and they want to, you know, put you in oil and complete you. But that's what they want.
yeah. So at the end of the article, Mark Rosewater actually got into a very good segment on the color's strengths and their biggest weaknesses. And I'm going to read this just because I find it fairly interesting. And unless you're a huge freaking history nerd like Jack and myself are, you probably wouldn't have even thought about going back and looking at a freaking article written in 2003. But
Yeah, right.
I'll read this real quick. And it kind of exposes a little bit of Mark Rosewater and the other designers' mindset when they came in and were doing the color chart. So, what is the color's greatest strength and the biggest weakness? White's greatest strength is its ability to create and enforce laws. If white can make you play by its rules, the opponent doesn't stand a chance. The downside to this structure is inflexibility. White does not have the ability to quickly adapt, as it is very set in its ways. In addition, white is so focused on the group that it is often loses sight of the individuals. During R&D's discussion on the color wheel, we cut out pictures from magazines and taped them on a giant color wheel on the wall to demonstrate how we saw the colors. This section proved to me the most controversial during Green Week, so of course I had to do it again. Here's what we consider to be white characters. First one, Superman. Known in comic circles as the Boy Scout, Superman always plays by the rules. He has a very moral center. In addition, he feels one of his major roles is to protect others. All these behaviors are very white. The next one was King Arthur. Arthur's main agenda was helping and protecting his subjects. He too had a strong moral code that guided his actions, and he made great use of structure to build and maintain his protection. So a card like that seems to me like that would go along with the Stacks sub theme. uh,
Yep, and something like the fairies protection.
exactly. And then you got a person like Captain Jean-Luc Picard.
Yep.
The Federation is very much a white organization. It has a moral center and loves its rules. Picard is a good soldier for the Federation. He has a strong moral compass and leads his people very much by the rules laid out before him. He always enjoys structure, so much so that one of his pastimes is archaeology, studying the structures of other civilizations. And
we really hit the nail on the head with the rigidity, like the rigidness and
yeah,
inflexibility of white that we were talking about.
yeah,
I'll just go on record. I've never read that article. I just went off of what I knew of the color itself. I haven't actually read that article of Mark's yet.
yeah. That was from February 3rd, 2003,
Wow.
and it looks like that they talked about every color like this. So
Okay, cool.
I'll make it a point and I'll talk about what Mark Rosewater, who was one of the designers of the freaking game, was
The
saying
guy, like,
about
yeah.
the cards. And I think that would
Yep.
be a good little segment for us to talk about. Because,
Yeah, we'll reference that and piggyback off of that for sure.
let's see.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, really hit the nail on the head with that one because yeah, that he sums it up perfectly with what White's all about there, and just how they when you play a deck like that and you're making all these tokens, right? You make that token deck. That's essentially it. Like you're not cared about because all those tokens typically tend to be one ones, right? Like on their own, they're not very strong. But you make 20 of them in a single turn, and now you're turning heads. Now people are like, "Wait, you got what? How many? You got what on your board?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like nobody cares about a single one human token, but you start making a whole army full of them, and now it's okay. There's that community, that harmony, that unity that they want in that color.
Yeah. So, as we finish talking about white for a little bit, what are you looking forward to coming up? I mean, I know we got Assassin's Creed coming up, I think next month
Yes.
here. Then we got Bloomborough in August or July, at the end of July. And then this
Yeah, we got
fall,
a
we
lot
got
coming up.
Duskmorn.
That I haven't actually looked at yet. I haven't seen that one. I've been more focused on this Assassin's Creed stuff
Yeah, this
because I'm
Assassin's
a
Creed stuff
huge
is
fan.
awesome so far.
Yeah, huge fan of Assassin's Creed. I loved their fourth game, Black Flag. So the guy I'm most excited for is, of course, Edward Kenway. However, there should be a captain in there somewhere, for he is Captain Edward Kenway. So
Yes.
I'm gonna give a little flag to Wizards of the Coast here. You guys kind of mucked up. You should have had Captain in his name. But he is a fantastic new card. He is two blue, black, and red legendary creature, human assassin pirate. Beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each tapped assassin, pirate, and/or vehicle you control. And then, whenever a vehicle you control deals combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. And you can play it for as long as it remains exiled.
Yeah, that's insane.
So,
I know you
a
and I
lot of
were
power.
talking earlier. That's definitely one of the commanders that I'm hoping to
Yeah.
get. Um,
Oh, he's insane. As far as I'm concerned, he's been one of the most badass assassins to have ever existed in that game series. Like,
oh,
I know all the Ezio fanboys are gonna be upset about that, but I think Edward Kenway is more badass than Ezio.
yeah.
I said it.
I mean, Christ, he's a fucking pirate.
Right. I mean, sure, Ezio is a cool dude from like the Renaissance era, which the Renaissance era was a very cool time period. But pirates, man, I mean, come on. He's a
Yeah,
pirate first and an assassin second.
yeah. Still one of the greatest games that AC ever
Right?
made. But looking at these cards, I mean, I'm 100% going to be building a Edward Kenway deck.
Yeah.
But,
I think a lot of us are.
yeah. But the other deck I'm looking at is fairly interesting. And it's Haytham Kenway.
Oh, you want to do his son?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Spoiler, by the way.
Yeah, for those that don't know.
I haven't
Um,
played a nearly 15-year-old video game.
yeah.
Yeah, Hatham's really cool. He's got some neat stuff. I think we lost you there for a second, Kav. You kind of cut out.
Oh, I accidentally touched my top of my mic that muted it.
Oh,
So,
there you go. So yeah, technical difficulty, user error. It's all right.
so
Hatham,
Haytham
dude.
is a 2 white and a blue for a 3/3 human knight. He has protection from assassins, and other knights you control get +2/+2 and have protection from assassins. And his last ability is when Hatham enters the battlefield, for each opponent, exile up to one target creature that player controls until Hatham leaves the battlefield. So with that, I'm automatically seeing one of the new white cards that are in this set, and that is being Templar Knight. Temp-
Yeah, White finally got their They finally got their copy of a card that can have any number of copies in it.
yeah. So for those that don't know, Templar Knight is 1 in a white for a 3/1 human knight. It has vigilance, and It's one white, tap 5 untapped creatures you control named Templar Knight. Search your library for a legendary artifact card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. A deck can have any number of cards named Templar Knight. So, if I'm freaking building this bad boy, Atham there, I'm putting a bunch of those Templar Knights in there, and other Knight cards, because there's a shit ton of them in white.
You would build the Templars, you cheeky bastard.
Hey, I'm looking at the abilities here,
Uh-huh. Yeah, okay. No, you're a Templar, it's fine.
and I'm looking at this, and I'm immediately thinking I could make this deck really fucking mean,
Oh, yeah.
and I could go straight stacks on this thing.
Yeah, it's rude and brutal.
I mean, that's for a white blue deck. That's gonna be a fucking mean deck if built correctly. You just gotta hope your whoever you're playing against has assassins. Otherwise, it's not gonna be as good.
Yeah, I mean his first ability won't be too relevant
But
off the get go there with that, but
it's more
I think
that
he'll still be pretty good.
yeah, it's more that +2/+2, and then the second ability.
Yeah,
But
like you could even throw him into a like some kind of knights deck of some kind. You could just toss him in and he'd be pretty good with that. Or even just building, like you're saying, knights around him.
yeah, exactly. I mean, the one card I know we've talked about it briefly. I mean, I didn't realize this at first, but one of the Ezio cards, it's a 5 color fucking deck.
Yeah. Yep. Well, because Ezio was like after Altair, Ezio was like the main assassin guy.
Yeah.
Like in the early trilogy games, Ezio was like he was the dude. He was the main assassin that did all the stuff that triggered like that led to the events of every other game following that. So he basically became like the Grandmaster Assassin.
Yeah, I mean,
So I think it totally makes sense that he'd be the 5 color commander for an assassin deck.
like, that card can be insane if built correctly. I mean, it's a 1 in a black for a 3/2 human assassin with menace. It gives all assassin spells you have free running for 2 black.
Which that's a new ability that we
Yes.
got.
So free running, I look at it as it's kind of like a flash style thing.
Well,
Um,
it's a ninjutsu. So like I have there's an
yeah,
edit here with the reminder text for it. So it's you may cast a spell for its free running cost if you dealt combat damage to a player this turn with an assassin or commander.
exactly. So
So
it's more similar to ninjutsu, like you were saying.
in a sense, yeah, ninjutsu is just that they had to not be blocked to get the ninjutsu out. This one they have to do combat damage, so it might be a little trickier.
But as you know, and as I know, there's ways around it.
Oh, 100%. Well, he's got the menace.
Exactly.
The Menace. That
But
Menace gonna work.
but the cool thing about Ezio is his second ability. Whenever Ezio deals combat damage to a player, you may pay Wooburg. If that player has 10 or less life when you do, that player loses the game.
Yeah,
So
just dead.
get him to 10 life and you win.
Yeah, what's disgusting is there's actually you just bust out the old mono black Sorin that has
Yep.
minus ability of hey, you're at 10. Oh hey, attack with Ezio. Oh look, you're dead.
The original Soren
Yeah, the problem with
Planeswalker.
those you would have to have access to Wooburg to do that, which I'm sure there's some dumb combo way that somebody can just get that out there.
Yeah. I mean, then we got another Death Touch commander too out of this set. Um, Avalon D Grand Prix, 2 and 2 green for a 3/3 assassin with Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control with Death Touch deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1/+1 counters on that creature. That's kind of cool. Um, Pair her with Finn the Fangbearer, and that could be fucking disgusting.
Yeah, that's there's a lot of stuff that's gonna be really cool in this set. I think we have a lot to look forward to.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't started seeing any. I mean, we've seen a couple of Bloomborough spoilers, and the artwork on it looks fantastic so far. I've only seen four or five different spoilers for it. I mean, we've seen Bria Riptide Rogue, who is a Izzet commander. Then Burke Longear of the Law, who is a green white, and it looks like that's focused on token generation and +1/+1 counters. Then you got a new Boros commander, Mabel, heir to the Crag Flame, and that one makes me think there's gonna be a lot of mice in this set.
Yeah.
Because
I know it's supposed to be a set with no humans in it.
yeah, there's no humans. So, I mean, the four creatures that have been spoiled so far are Bria Riptide Rogue, who is an otter. Then Björk Longear the Law, who's a rabbit. Then you got Lumra Bellow of the Woods, who's a bear. And you got Mabel, who's a mouse. So this is definitely going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. But then the last set of the year is going to be... Ooh, excuse me. It's going to be Bloomborough. Or not Bloomborough. What the hell is it? Duskborn. That's supposed to be released in Q3. We don't really have any information on this set other than supposedly haunted style stuff. So I'm immediately thinking stuff like Innistrad. It looks very dark, and some of the artwork I've seen kind of makes it feel like a 80s style horror movie.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
But I'm definitely interested in seeing how that one plays out, because there's one of the artworks that's spoiled is a giant moth-like creature, and she looks to be the big bad of that set. So I'm just hoping this set isn't like frickin' Murders at Karlov Manor, and they screw it up.
Yeah.
Murders had all sorts of issues with lore, in my opinion. It felt like they wanted to do a new Capenna set, but then they said, "No, screw it. We're going back here." But with that,
Yeah. So a lot of cool stuff to look forward to.
there's a lot of cool shit. But with that, we will see you guys all next time. Thank you for listening to us ramble. And next episode, we will be talking about blue.
Yep, we're gonna keep on going down the list here.
And we are definitely going to be a little bit more enthusiastic about blue, as we both play a lot of blue. With that, have a great night, everyone, or day, whatever time you're listening. And we will talk to you guys all later.
Take it easy.